Right. I will be speaking about actually a series of events that we have conducted since last year, which is regarding the new villages in Malaysia. So it is an interesting and fine community, and with nice environment, with all the facilities intact. I heard something from my grandparents saying that they were forced to move into the new village. Almost more than 50% of the population are being Chinese. China slowly turned into a communism country, communism nation, and the Malaysian Chinese at the time, they still strongly have that kind of attachment to their mother country, and most of them, they will then follow the ideology of communism. Why the British are? What if the half of the population in the country, starting to adapt this ideology of communism? They call it Malayan emergency. Over 400 resettlement villages, new villages, or we call it Singchun. And then more than half of the million people were physically removed from isolated rural location and then forced to move into the new settlement. And I actually have a few photos, then you probably can imagine that how harsh is the condition. And when they move into this area with a good name called new villages, it's a segregated settlement, which means that the people will be gathered and isolated from the actual society. It's almost like imprisonment, that the people cannot move freely out from the village. So if you look at this map of Peninsula of Malaysia, we have over 400 new villages founded during that time. Yeah. So this is the photo that's showing that in some extreme case that the villager heard the news, and then after a while, the military trucks will arrive with the troops. They gave the villager each family 15 minutes, to pack all the important belongings, and then they are loaded into the trucks, and then they are taken away to the new area. Then their original house will be burned down, by the military. And when the people are moved to the new villages, at the beginning, they were supplied with the food. If you look at the backdrop of this image, there are a lot of old houses. But the old houses are basically constructed with the material that they cut from the land. They do not have much of option, because they were forced to move to this place, and actually government provide nothing. There's no house, so they will have to build the houses by their own. And although they are supplied by the food, but they actually lost their freedom to form some society, so to help to take care of the welfare of the people. And also they will elect people who are sociable, to organize the village. And if you look at the materials of the houses, are usually the forms of almost like the Orang Asli houses, because these are the knowledge that they learn from the Orang Asli, and I think probably these are the most suitable material to turn into a house. But most of the village actually has some plan, which means that they are not just dumped into a place, but in fact the government has already done some study, and they start considering the topography and the rivers, vegetation, and they cut out the land, and then they will give each family one piece of land for them to cultivate. All the village usually come with the main gate at the bottom, if you can see clearly. There's a main gate at the bottom. Then after that, sometimes will come with the temple, and then the football field, police station, Chinese school, and then as you go further in, then these are the houses. And sometimes they will have this, even in this plan, it shows that they have this communal piggeries, where they are allowed to eat their livestock. This is a typical house that you can find in the new village. So these are basically the principles when they decided to set up the village. Usually the site is located on the higher ground, close to the main traffic trunks. So in order for the government to continue to monitor the place. And it's a close community, guarded and gated, and should be no more than 6 houses per acre of land, and each household need to have land for self-cultivation and agriculture. And this is very important. It will be very difficult for the government to continue to supply the food to the people. And also provide adequate water supply and plan public facilities, including schools, libraries, clinics, fire stations, so if open glass, basketball court, badminton court. Yeah. And when you hear until this, then you probably thought that, oh, this is really good. This is, even though it's a segregation camp, it's like a prison, but everything is provided. Yeah. The reason why is that when the government implemented this plan, they were condemned by the international society. Yeah, because that during the World War II, we had a very bad experience about segregation. Yeah, imagine that we have this Jewish Auschwitz segregation camp that the people are putting the people into the gas chamber. Will have to make sure that the new village is properly planned. So the size of the land given to each family is about 80 feet times 60 feet, or equivalent to 4,800 square feet for each family, for more than 7 people. If the family has less than 6 people, then we have to subdivide. This is actually my kampung, my hometown. I used to live in this new village along Taiping. In the morning, you will see a lot of school children walking on the street and slowly walking to the school, which means that actually it was a nice planning, because that refer to Garden City planning. It's a livable place. This is why I'm particularly interested in the village and planning for the village. This is another example, Sri Kepangan village in Selangor. The village, the largest new village is located in Kuala Lumpur, which is Jinjang. So this is an area, and in fact it's very close to UCSI University. The reason why we choose Salasau New Village as our project site is one. So it is a village in the city. Yeah, we call it urban village. And it is surrounded and cut off by the highways, right? Highways. So almost like an isolated island. The good thing is that if you visit the village, you will find that actually that in that area, people, they still have very strong sense of community, because they are still like living in a contained community, right? So talking about the building typology, so I categorize the houses into 4 generations. First generation being the earliest one. The reason being they are forced to move into the village, and without help of the government, they will have to build their house with the local available materials. So usually the first generation will be 1-story and full timber structure with vertical plant, wall, and symmetrical layouts, because this is due to the culture, it's Chinese traditional culture. And you will see a plug or a sign on top of the door. In fact, if you look at this sign, then you will know that the family's surname, right? So no fence, okay? Minimum building footprints and more open area, timber panels, windows, and strip walls and thatches roof, open space for farming, because this is first generation. When it comes to second generation, why they will have to rebuild the building? Because first generation usually they build the houses with the local materials. So after a while, perhaps 10 to 15 years, the building will be attacked by the termites. During the second generation, you will see that the lower wall should be bricks wall. Bricks wall. This is actually to help to prevent the damping and also to keep the termites away. When it comes to second generation and third generation, you begin to see that the house layout are no longer symmetrical, especially the third generation. That is because that the Chinese family is slowly adopt the modern living lifestyles. From time to time, you see up to 4th generation, some people become wealthier, and then they will choose to tear down the building and then build another higher, maybe 3-story. But as you compare from the first generation to the 4th generation, first generation are more open, even they do not have their own fence. So the reason why village is a very good place to stay, and the old elderly people, they normally know each other, is because when they were young, they live in all those houses without fence. They can easily live without their friend's house. But come to the modern living lifestyles, once the people enter to their own house, the auto gate will be closed. Then you close down the connection with even with your neighbors. And during this time, in 1970s, 1980s, people are still not relying on the passive aircon cooling. Yeah, so we will still have this kind of a passive design with ventilation holes to stimulate the airflow. So these are the models done by the student at semester 3, year 2, semester 1. Yeah. So they visit the house and then they measure it and then they build the model. Quite nice. Yeah. So from here you can see the plan, floor plan. So here at the bottom, this is the main door access into the living room. And as the main door, you can actually, for this house, it is quite symmetrical. Yeah, living room, after you enter, then you are facing to a wall, and usually the outdoor will be here. And you have left hand side and left hand side got 4 rooms, right? So in Chinese culture, usually the eldest will stay at the, if you look at these pictures, it is on your right hand side. But in fact, Chinese culture regard this side as left hand side. Why? Because Chinese culture, when we refer to left or right, we will usually regard the building as a person. Yeah. So if the building as a person, the face is the main door facing outside. So the building's left hand side should be on the right hand side that you are looking at now. Yeah. So this is another example, which is symmetrical. As you walk to the back, which is a kitchen, and is no longer symmetrical. So this is the side wall. So from then, I will ask the student, which generation is this? Then I actually ask the student to think about how, if you guys as a young architects, if you guys got a client request you to help them to renovate their house, what would you do? Are you going to design a fancy house? Are you going to stick with the original principles of the design, which we close contacts with the village, and also we want to stimulate the connection of the people, yeah, with the design of the houses. I'm involved in this Little Giraffe Cafe located not far away from UCSI as well. So this young group of people, friends, they also try to have this kind of experimental project where they renovate the house into a library, and they're starting to organize activities. So if you compare with the original state of this house, they moved away the fence. When they start move away the fence, then you create this kind of open space to enable your neighbor to visit your house easily, and therefore the sense of community begin to emerge, right? So before and after. Before that there was a fence, and after that they removed the fence. Then their open space then eventually turns into public space in the village. This is the things that we would like to reintroduce back to the village. We want the people to know how important it is to share some of your land with your neighbor. Then eventually, in fact, we will have safety life, because people will no longer stay within your own house and lock the door. It's like you are living in a prison, but you are rather spend more time at the semi-open space or even outside of the building. Selatan, we have surveyed the village and identified different generation houses, and we also identified a possible cut through, so that to make some easy shortcut for people to encourage people to walk in the village. When you begin to walk in the village, more people to walk, and the village will become safer. And once you walk, you will get a chance to meet your neighbor, talk to the people, and then the village eventually will become an ideal place to live in. Yeah, so we organize event and having exhibition, introduce the scheme to the people, and even the minister was invited to officiate the exhibition. And we also work closely with the government. Yeah, so we have this kind of idea that for one village, one new village community, hopefully that we can invite one architects and academics and the public and also the government together to come, I would say, to work on something. So last year we had a pilot project that inviting one famous architects firm, Kaktao46 to involve in make over a library, existing library in the village. So this is the condition of the library. So without much imagination, the people just put it in the bookshelves and have big table organizing the events. They regard in terms of the architecture, how to turn this into a more charming and attractive place so that people would like to visit. So we had a series of discussion, and then after that, these architects designed the makeover of this building. As you can see that they designed it according to the original village house setting, which we have more openings, yeah, and close ventilation and inviting the people. That is why you see, if this is inside the indoor interior environment, but we have this opening so that you will see through, and outside people will be able to peep in to understand. And also we encourage people to have these outdoor activities. These are the people in the community. So this place, this little library eventually become a meeting place of the villager. And also we have Tadika kindergarten next to the library. So this is every week, I think they have 2 days coming to this village and to have storytelling activities. Yeah, and this photo taken yesterday. So now I'm conducting a design studio with master architecture student, continue to come up with the idea, and we have 12 students, yeah, in this master studio. So the idea is that I will have this 12 students, each student to look at the elements of this place. What is the elements of this place? Yeah, if you visit a new place, then usually you will get a special feeling, and without much if you do not observe closely, you will just treat it very normal things. Yeah. But we as a professional designer or architects, we are trained to observe things. So I actually asked them to identify 12 special elements that you can only see in the village. Yeah. After they pick up the elements, and then they will choose 12 microsites, which are the houses. Yeah. And then they will imagine that what if they eventually move into this village as younger generation residents, then what is their own expectation of the house. But as I said, that a village house, we should not treat it like a private house. Yeah? If you treat it like private house, then meaning that there is no different than the fourth generation houses. So I forced them to have 12 mentors. Yeah, guru lah. 12 mentors are the artists, different artists, lawyers, doctors, people from all walks of life. And then these mentors will share the house with this 12 student. Meaning that this student will have to discuss with the mentor that, okay, how much space do you want? They will share the house. And this mentor are not going to stay in the house, but instead they are using this house as their place to work, or maybe they want to have a place for them to organize activities. So the second program, meaning that forcing this student to open up 50% of the house for the general purpose, yeah, so that it will be shared among the villagers. Once the students selected 12 sites, yeah, and then come with the idea that they have these 12 mentors to share the half of the houses with them, then eventually we are actually showcasing the locals, yeah, the locals that if you want to renovate house, if you want to continue making the village relevant and sustainable living environment, and actually the best model to, I think, for others, even the new urban area to refer to, we should do that. And eventually, all these people will have connection. Yeah. Once these people are connecting each others, they know each others, then imagine that this is going to be a very nice place to live in. Yeah. A lot of people would admire that. Wow, how good if I am able to find a house and I move into the new village. Yeah. That's all from my sharing. Thank you.